This Sunday night and Monday is Tu Bishvat, so we'll focus on that today. Tu Bishvat, as we all know, is the anniversary of the trees. We celebrate Tu Bishvat for many reasons, not just because trees are essential to human survival, but also because we are compared to trees. The Torah itself says in the book of Deuteronomy, Ki Adam etz hasadeh, that man is like the tree of the field. Now, how are we? Why is God comparing us to trees, not to any animals? What's the connection between us and trees? Does anyone know? Can anyone guess? Growth, life, good. Just as trees forever grow until they die, so too we should grow each and every day. We can't be satisfied with the achievements of yesterday. Good. But there are many comparisons between trees and human beings. Ki Adam et hasadeh. One of the great ones is brought by the Talmud that says that trees are made of three components, if you think about this. The trees have roots. They also have trunks, their own entities. And then they also have branches, leaves, and fruits. Not all trees have fruits, but many trees have fruits. Same with human beings. We have our roots. That's where we come from. It's our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors, our heritage. But then we have to build our own entities too. We can't just say, hey, my great-grandfather was a tzaddik, and my great-grandmother was the holiest woman you've ever met. We have to build a life with our own purpose, with our own direction in life. And we have to have our own trunk, so to speak. And as we do so, we can't just be focused on ourselves, but we have to make sure, and that's really the purpose of every tree, to provide fruits, to provide shade, to provide leaves and branches to the world around us. So those are the three components that must exist too in the human being. Now, every year, and this has become now a very widespread custom, but many Jews do a Tu Bishvat Seder. You ever heard of that? Tu Bishvat Seder was established by the Kabbalists of Tzfat some 400 years ago. By Rabbi Luria, was the foremost Kabbalist of the time. And because of this comparison between trees and human beings, decided to do a Seder so that we can celebrate the human being in different ways as we celebrate the trees in different ways. This Seder also has the number 4 that's quite prevalent in it, just as the Passover Seder. Remember, 4 cups of wine. We have 4 questions and so on. But this number 4 in the Seder, in the Tu Bishvat Seder, really refers to the 4 parts of the Seder. There are 4 parts of that Seder. And we'll talk about the Seder today, so that maybe you can do it in your own homes. It's a fun thing to do. It's a very educational thing to do to yourselves with the kids. And at the same time, also, I think it brings a lot of meaning, not just to what the trees are and what they represent and why we should be thankful to God for them, but also to who we are and what we represent and why we should be thankful for us too, because as mentioned, we are like the trees. But before we get to the Seder, I want to explore really 2 quick ideas. I don't get a piece of paper, but can I have that? Thank you. But no problem. But 2 ideas really that are at the foundation of Tu Bishvat, again, which compares man to trees and which celebrates trees, the anniversary of the trees. And the first one really speaks again of this verse of the Deuteronomy. I'm just going to switch this off. And then something quite unique that both trees and human beings have. So as you can see, the verse in Deuteronomy 20:19 says at the very end, for man is like the tree of the field. And that's why when we are commanded to go to war, we cannot cut down trees, because many ways by cutting down trees, we're cutting down humanity. We're cutting down human beings. We're cutting down at least the source of oxygen, of energy. But at the same time, also, we're cutting down that which is so alike us. But one great foundational idea comes from Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, who points out that every tree, as we all know, is unique. Every tree is unique either in its appearance or in its production, or in its size, or in its beauty altogether, right? But it's the same with human beings. Every human being also is unique. And that's yet another comparison between trees and human beings. In many ways, when we celebrate Tu Bishvat, what we have to do is not just look at the uniqueness in every tree, but also to look at the uniqueness of every human being. If we are celebrating human beings through trees, then we should celebrate our uniqueness too. Just as every human being is different and has a different purpose, so too, every human being also has a different direction, is a different way it spreads its branches, it produces its fruits. This is also why the Kotzker Rebbe teaches God created every human being separately, individually, right? Animals were created in masses. Birds, fish were created in masses. Trees also were created in masses. Yes, they're unique, but they're all created in masses. Human beings were created alone. God created Adam, he only created Adam. When he created Eve, he only created Eve. And that's because God did not want to create human beings in masses, because he wanted to teach us that every one of us is unique. And really the goal of every human being is not to try and be like someone else, but rather to try and be the best version of themselves. They tell the story of Rabbi Allouche, one of the great Hasidic masters, who was a student of the Baal Shem Tov, to the founder of the Hasidic movement. A famous story, but the story of him once crying bitterly. And no one understood why he was crying. So they came to Rabbi Allouche and they said, why are you crying like this? He said, because I just had an epiphany. I just realized that when I die and I go up to the heavens, God will not ask me, why wasn't Zusha like Abraham, like Isaac, like Jacob, like the Baal Shem Tov? God will ask me, why wasn't Zusha like Zusha? And I don't think I'm living like Zusha is supposed to live. So I'm crying. In many ways, this is exactly what the message, this one of the two foundational ideas of Tu Bishvat is. And that is that, look at those trees. They're unique, right? And they're proud of their uniqueness. They're not hiding anything from anyone. So too, we are unique. We have our unique sets of talents, of skills, of expressions, of contributions, of impact. So why are we not being Zushas, to use that example, ourselves? And Tu Bishvat is really an awakening to that uniqueness that we all possess and to our duty to actualize it. So that's idea number one. And maybe it's worth reading the words you have Rabbi Menachem Schneer said, by the way, exactly 75 years ago today, became the Rebbe and assumed the role of the leader of the Jewish people. Does anyone want to read? Let's read the third reference here from the top. Why did Adam have to be lonely? Does anyone want to read? Anyone? No? Everyone's shy today? Come on. It's part of your uniqueness. Yes, please, Natalie, go for it. Why did Adam? That's right. The answer is
simple but profound. God wanted to teach us a lesson. Human identity does not exist in relation to others. I am not a response to you. My value is never dependent on your validation or approval. My existence is never conditional on your acceptance of it. My self has absolute inherent value. My I has infinite dignity and is perfect the way it is. God loves each of us unconditionally, unequivocally, not because of anything we do or don't do, but because our very I is divine.
right. And I think it's beautifully said by Rabbi Schneerson, but I think that it's very, very much connected to how God also, if you think about this, how God introduces our heroes in the Torah. For example, Moses, that we read about, that has liberated us from Egypt last week, and now he's helping us cross the Red Sea in this week's parsha. But Moses is picked as the leader of the Jewish people, and many wonder why. Why was he picked? Where did he go to? Did he go to Harvard or to MIT or to Yale? Where did he go to? Where did he study? No word. What talents did he have? No word of that. The only thing we know is that he grew up in Pharaoh's palace. There's maybe half a verse about that. And then we know that once he grew up, he went out to the streets and he saw a slave master beating up a Jewish slave, and he saved the Jewish slave by killing the slave. We don't know anything about Moses. What? His integrity. Okay, but we also don't even know that. It doesn't say he was a man of integrity. Same with Abraham, by the way. Same with so many others. You name it. Like, who was Abraham? Abraham appears to us at the age of 75. That's when God tells him, Lech lecha, leave you. Who was he until the age of 70? No one knows. No mention of that. And same it is with many of the heroes of our Torah. And the reason is because God is trying to teach us that you are chosen not because of what you did, but because of who you are. God created you and therefore chose you by creating you because of who you are. And we have to embrace who we are. We have to embrace, to say it in a different way, a human being before we can embrace a human doing. And once we are in tune with our human being, with our very own unique being, then our human doing will flow, will come almost naturally thereafter. And this is the message. Again, there's a second one here, but the foundational idea of Tu Bishvat is that trees are different. Each tree is different than the other, as mentioned. And so should we be. Everyone is different. Everyone is created differently. The Lubavitcher Rebbe would say that a man's birthday, is anyone celebrating a birthday here? Today, yesterday, tomorrow? A person's birthday is God's way of saying to that person that the world could not exist without you. You were born. That means that God decided that the world could not exist without your birth. You have a grandchild now, right? Without him from this point on. Otherwise, God would not have created him. Or in the words of Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, he would say almost the same idea, that birth is God's way of saying that you matter. Because if you do not matter, if there was someone exactly like you, then maybe you wouldn't have been born. Why the need for you if there's someone exactly like you? So birth is God's way of saying that you matter. And this is why, again, Moses is not introduced by any accolades, and Abraham is not, because God is saying you matter because of you, because of who you are, not your titles, not the schools you went to, not the deeds you have, who you are. God chooses each and every one of us, and by creating us, he chose us because of who we are, not because, again, of all the accolades. Yes, we still have to live a purpose, and that's idea number 2 coming up here. But again, we have to embrace who we are. How do you know you are? Well, again, you have to think of your personality. Everyone has a different personality. Some more introverts, some more extrovert. Some have certain skills. You could be a musician, you could be an athlete, you could be an artist, whatever it is. You can also ask yourself, well, where did God plant me? If God planted me in Scottsdale, Arizona, it's because he wants me to better Scottsdale, Arizona, or my part of Scottsdale, Arizona. The places we go to, the people we meet are there for us to impact. All of that is a part of who we are, and all of that is quite unique. Because the people that I met today are not the same people you met, or I will meet, not the same people. The places I'll go to are probably not the same places you'll go to. Everyone has different places, different people, different skills, different personalities. And by being in tune with that, we can know who we are. And then the human doing will follow that human being. But it's important to learn that from Tu Bishvat, because that's what trees teach us. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is, as we go back to who we truly are and then actualize who we are, we have to remember the words of the Midrash. Just beautiful words. Again, here, and the next reference, I'll read it. Said Rabbi Shimon, every blade of grass has an angel that bends over it and whispers to it, grow, grow. Imagine when you're walking on the grass, if you're playing golf today, and you're stepping on blades of grass, you should just know you're not just stepping on blades of grass, you're probably stepping on the angels that are over them, so be careful where you walk. But because those angels are on every single blade, telling every blade, grow, grow. The chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Avraham Yitzchak Cohen Cook, says something beautiful. It's worth reading the second reference here. Why does the angel have to hit? Does anyone want to read this? Please, Janet, go for it.
Because in times the blade of grass loses faith in itself and doesn't want to grow. So the angel appears, reminds it how much God cares and how he desires for it to grow and fulfill its purpose.
Right. Sometimes the blades are lazy. And if God hits blades of grass, simple blades of grass, how much more so does he believe in us? Have so much more potential than blades of grass. Every one of us is also given an angel. It says that every Jew walks around everywhere he goes with 2 angels. Wherever we are, we have 2 angels. Those angels are also telling us, grow, grow. We may not hear them, but I can promise you, Our soul hears them. Our subconscious hears them. And that's why sometimes we become frustrated because this week or this day today, I didn't grow yet. And we know it or don't know it, but it's there. And those angels keep believing in us more than we believe in ourselves. And that's another thing we can learn from Tu Bishvat. Again, if there are angels on blades of grass that we celebrate on Tu Bishvat, there are angels on us telling us, grow, truly believing in us. I wanted to correlate that with 3 storms that appear in the Tanakh, in the Bible. 3 storms that have one thing in common. And that one thing is 3 people that ran away from their purpose, from the growth that they were asked to achieve. Not just their personal growth, but making other people grow. The first one is maybe the most famous. We read about him on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, on the afternoon of Yom Kippur, we read about Jonah. Remember the prophet Jonah? Jonah, who was sent to save the city of Nineveh from destruction because people there were corrupt and immoral. He was asked to go and make them return, make them do teshuvah. On the way, he's in the ship, and he decides, you know what, I'm not going. And there's a terrible storm, and as we all know, he doesn't jump, he's thrown into the sea because everyone knows it's because Jonah is refusing to fulfill his duty. And this big fish, not a whale, by the way. You know why I know it's not a whale? People think it's a whale, but not a whale. You know why? Simple. Zoologically, whales have too short of a throat, too narrow of a throat to be able to swallow beings. So it couldn't have been a whale. But maybe a shark, I don't know. But a big fish came and swallowed Jonah. Then he repents and he assumes his role to grow and make grow. And that's when the fish vomits him after 3 days, and he does achieve his goal. Changes with 5 words, by the way. And I will often say that's the difference between Jews and non-Jews. Because you see these mega churches, you see these like masses following religions. And I've often asked myself, how come Jews don't have mega churches? How come it's so much harder to convince Jews? And we see that in the Torah. Look, Jonah is sent to go to Nineveh, a city of non-Jews, and to tell them to repent. What does he do? He tells them 5 words. And by saying those 5 words, they're awakened and they repent. Od 40 yom Nineveh nechrevet. In 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. 5 words. It's unbelievable. If it was a city of Jews, would have needed probably to say 500 words or 5,000 words or maybe 50,000 words. I don't know if 5 words would have worked, but that's the way we are. We're a stubborn people, like the Torah calls us, sometimes in positive ways also, not just in negative ways. But the point is that he tried to flee, and eventually he had a change of heart and he fulfilled his duty. And today everyone celebrates Jonah for fulfilling that duty. The second one is Elijah the prophet. You may know the story also in the book of Kings. He too, he's told by God, go and save your people from idolatry that filled the land of Israel in his times. And he decides to run away to the desert. And then God appears to him. First, he hears big noises, and then he hears a small, still voice. And it's God telling him, stop running away from what you're supposed to do. It's God telling him, grow, like God says to those blades of grass. And then he has a change of heart, and he goes and performs a miracle. He has a fire consume a sacrifice, fire that descended from the heavens in front of everyone. That's number 2. The third one also experiences a storm, and that's Job. In the book of Job, Job suffers tremendously, and he too decides, well, that's it. I've had too difficult of a life. I'm retreating. And then there's a big storm, and then a mighty wind swept from the desert, and he too has a change of heart, and he ends his life becoming very wealthy and also changing the world. But I think there's no coincidence that these 3 prophets are in the Torah with the same story, more or less, different variations. Because the Torah is trying to teach us, or the Tanakh here is trying to teach us, that we too have a calling. We too have angels to tell us, grow and make the world around you grow also. And very often, like Elijah the prophet, we run away to the desert. It could even be here to the Arizona desert. Oh, sometimes we run away to the seas on cruises and we don't want anyone to see us anymore. Or we run away like Job tried to do with, inner circle. He had 7 friends and that's all. Leave me alone. But God will not give up on you, just as he did not give up on these 3. He reappeared, convinced them, and they eventually changed the world for the better. And that's another lesson again from Tu Bishvat. 1 relates to the human being, knowing who we are and how unique we are. And 2 relates to the human doing, how we are called each and every day to grow and make grow just like the blades of grass. Now that we've spoken about these 2 ideas, we can speak about the Tu Bishvat Seder. Let's cover that. And again, I encourage you to do it in your homes. So for the Tu Bishvat Seder, you need to prepare 4 different plates, as well as 4 different cups. Okay, just visualize this as we speak about this. Plate number 1 really represents the world of action. Plate number 2, which is, by the way, this world, the world of action, according to Kabbalah, is this world. That's why we have to focus on action in this world more than anything else. Plate number 2 represents the world above us, which is the world of the angels, and that's the world of formation, Olam HaYetzirah. Plate number 3 is the world above that, and that's where the souls come from. That's Olam HaBriyah, the world of creation. Plate number 4 is the world above that, and that's where whole of creation comes from. It's called Olam HaAtzilut, or the world of emanation. The 4 different cups really represent the 4 seasons. What are the 4 seasons? Come on. Good, spring, summer, winter, and fall, right? You say fall or you say autumn? Autumn, right? Okay. But the 4 cups of wine, as you'll soon see, they represent the 4 seasons, because at the end of the day, trees are influenced, and the growth of trees are influenced by the seasons. So we have to celebrate trees also by celebrating that which influences them, and those are the 4 seasons. Now, the 4 plates of the worlds are then filled with 4 different types of fruits, and the more the better. Many focus obviously on the 7 fruits of Israel. There are 7 fruits that are unique to Israel, and maybe use them before you use the other ones. But you can fill those plates with 4 different types of fruits. Type number 1, in the world of action, you should have a fruit that has a peel on the outside, but is edible on the inside. So for example, an orange, right? Banana. What else? Come on. Apple, thank you, yeah. But a peel that's inedible. So pistachio, you can use nuts too. Kiwi, thank you. All these types of fruits, fill up their plate with as many fruits that are exactly like that. Now, why is that? Because the world of action, this world right here, is a world that's mostly bad on the outside. The good is really only on the inside. Sometimes we have to dig through the challenges to find the blessing, through people to find the blessing. So we celebrate humanity, remember, because humanity is compared to trees. So we celebrate this world. We celebrate people that are maybe rough on the outside, but soft on the inside, just like those fruits. And we say to those people, you too are unique. You too have a human doing, with angels over you saying, grow, grow. That's plate number 1. I'll get to the 4 cups after this. Plate number 2, even though by the 4 cups are simultaneous with each and every step, but I don't want to mix the ideas here. So plate number 2 has to have a type of fruit that is edible on the outside, but inedible on the inside. So a date, for example, or olives, or what? Prunes. Come on. Peaches, thank you. Plums, good. What else?
Would apples count? Because they have the seeds.
That's right, they have the seeds. That's right. I have yet to make seedless apples. I have seedless watermelons. I don't know. But that's fine. So apples, yes. What else? Avocado, that's both, actually. Fine. Anyway, those types of fruits. Why? Because this world, as we said, represents the world of angels, which is good on the outside. But if you dig deep, you can find also bad angels, like the angel of death, or angels that are sent to destroy this world sometimes, like the angel Gabriel, who's sometimes sent to destroy this world. He destroyed the city of Sodom in the Torah. So on the outside, I mean, the good is pretty much revealed in that holier world, but there's still some bad. So we eat those types of fruits. Same for people. There are people that are all nice and soft on the outside and all smiles on the outside, but at some point you realize that it's a little bit superficial, and then there's roughness to them on the inside. But those people also included, because again, everyone is unique. We celebrate all of humanity on Tu Bishvat, so we celebrate those people through those fruits too. By the way, the roughness that they have inside are just like those seeds. Seeds may be rough, but if you know how to handle them and plant them, they can produce a lot of sweetness. So too with the roughness on the inside. Sometimes it's just really reflective of traumas, of insecurities. And if we know how to handle them and channel them the right way, then they can produce, just like seeds, can produce many delicious fruits. That's plate number 2. Plate number 3 must include fruits that are entirely edible. So berries, right? I think blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, yeah, they're all edible. Strawberries. What else? Grapes, seedless grapes, raisins. Come up with something. What else? Figs, thank you. And the figs is a fruit of Israel too. Yes, that's right, all those berries. Okay, those types of fruits. They represent first and foremost the third world, the world of creation, where there's only good. That's where the souls come from. Nothing bad in that world. And they also represent the people who are good on the inside as they are on the outside, good on the outside as they are on the inside. Those are the best types of people. Those are that are good through and through, as they say. And we celebrate them too because, again, they're also part of the human family. Last but not least, plate number 4 does not have anything included. It's brought to the table, but it doesn't have anything included in it. As it relates to the highest world, that is because the highest world is a world where God is really the only entity that dwells there. It's the light of God, or Ein Sof in the words of Kabbalah, the infinite light of God, and really nothing can stand in its presence, because it's almost like going to the power station as opposed to going to this light bulb. You'd melt. Nothing can stand in God's unreserved presence. And therefore, we don't have any fruits, because again, it represents this vacuum that is left only for God. This type of plate also represents what the new custom has become also. I don't know if you've heard of it, during the Passover Seder, that we have a 5th cup of wine for Elijah the prophet, right? But we also have a 5th question, and we also have a 5th son. That son, the one that is represented again by the 5th question, the 5th cup of wine, is the son that doesn't show up to the Seder. He's just too disconnected. It's not there. But on Tu Bishvat, as it is on Passover, we dare not forget even those children. We have to include them too. So that 4th plate that is left empty reminds us of the emptiness in the Jewish people and in the world altogether that needs to be filled with those souls that are currently lost. That's the 4th plate. Let's go now to the cups. Again, the cups represent the 4 seasons, and it's quite simple. The first cup, we start with the season of Tu Bishvat. The season of Tu Bishvat is the season of, it starts, it's when spring is about to start. Winter is just before. Tu Bishvat is almost like the transition. But the season of spring is represented by a rosé type of wine. Not too red and not too white. Right? Rosé is the right type? Or what else? What other type of... Is that color pinkish? Okay. Yeah, what? Blush? Yeah, pinkish blush, yes. But what type of wine would... Okay, all right. No connoisseurs here. Okay, well, that represents the season of spring. Then you go to the season of summer, and that's represented by wine that is very red, where the heat of the summer is in full blow, and the sun is shining in the red hot way. So you have red wine. What are red wines you like? Cabernet, Merlot. What else? Cabernet Franc, Pinot Noir. Very good. That's the season of the summer. What? Manischewitz. There you go. Yeah, good luck with that. Then you have the third wine, which is the season now of autumn, which is a little more red, a little less red than the summer, but a little more red than the spring wine. I don't know what type of wine you have for that. But if you don't, by the way, you can add some white wine to the red. And for the winter season, we drink a white cup of wine, which represents the snow, the whiteness of the winter. So that we cover in that Seder the four types of human beings, the four worlds, and the four seasons that influence, again, the growth of trees that are compared to human beings too. I encourage people also that during the Seder, they should speak about their own attributes. It's a time for self-reflection and maybe share with the world new resolutions where they say, oh, you know what? I think I have a talent of this and this, but I haven't quite used it yet. So I'm going to use it from now on. And I think it opens up a lot of not just great ideas, but great achievements too, by the uniqueness of every human being. Obviously, one should say the blessings also over the fruits. Usually it's the blessing of our etz, because we're celebrating fruits of trees, and blessing of our geffen over the wine. Once the blessing is said once, it doesn't need to be said for the rest of the fruits or the wines. And that's it. That's Tu Bishvat. Yeah, usually the Seder is performed at night. So Sunday night. This coming Sunday night, yeah. Okay. Any questions on this? I have two questions for today that I can relate to, but if you have any questions on this, on anything else, no? Okay. All right. So these are the questions for today. Just two questions. Is Judaism a religion or a culture, or is it considered both? I would say it's considered neither. Not a religion and not a culture. It has cultural expressions. It has religious expressions too, but it's certainly not a religion per se or a culture per se. Religion, Judaism, I think, is just family. Jews are family. We spoke about this, I think, in the past, because you can't say that it's a religion, because if you're not religious, you're still Jewish. Can't say that it's a specific culture, because there's so many different types of cultures. You have the Sephardic culture, you have the Ashkenazic culture, you have the Yemenite culture. You have different cultures in Judaism. Not all Jews celebrate one particular culture. We can't say that it's an ethnicity. Again, you have all sorts of different types of Jews. You even have Ethiopian Jews. You have all sorts of Jews. Then you can't say that it's a nationality, just as being American or being French or whatever it is, because if you don't live in Israel, you're still Jewish. So what is it? It's a family. It's a tribe. And it's not in some fluffy way. It's the way God calls us. We are called the children of Israel, not because of the land of Israel, even though that's our land, not because of some poetic reason, but really because Israel was our forefather, Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, if you recall. All Jews come from Jacob, because we all come from one of the 12 tribes, the 12 sons of Jacob. Now, some can trace themselves all the way back to the tribes, or maybe not, but that's who we come from. Converts are considered like adopted children in the family, just like children, like any other child in the family. So really, we are a family. There's no better way, there's no other way to frame or to define the Jewish people or Judaism altogether. And that explains also a lot of things. It explains why sometimes we fight like family. It explains why we take care of each other like family in bad times, October 7th. It explains why when a Jew is butchered in Sydney, Australia on Bondi Beach, a Jew in Scottsdale, Arizona feels it. Non-Jews can't understand that. What? Nothing to do, not your family, not even the same part of the world. Like, they can't, because we're family. So we either know that consciously or subconsciously, but that's who we truly are. That's the best, that's the only definition that we have.